Sportscast. It is, at the time of recording this, a little after 8 o'clock Eastern, July 2nd, Tuesday. We're halfway done with this year already, which is insane. Adam, how glad are you that we're in holiday week now?
It's been a busy past 2 months, so I'm glad that I'll at least have one day to kind of enjoy it. After that, yeah, I mean it's another potentially really busy weekend. So I hesitate to say it's any type of vacation at all. So I'm gonna have
Yeah, go on.
I'll have pretty much Thursday, off. Aside from, what we probably have coming up, which we'll preview here in a little bit, but
Yeah,
um
I'm off tomorrow, but I think there's going to be a tunnel talk or throw in or something in the 451 land. Adam's talking about it. We'll just kind of, hit it out of the way. Detroit City stuff. It's a busy weekend for Les Rouge. We're going to be doing the City Make Spence with Sean Spence himself. We're doing that Thursday sometime. So either Thursday night, early Friday, that's going to drop. But in light of the women's success,
I said we can toast to the U.S. men's national team getting booted from Copa on America's birthday.
in their own hosting the tournament. How bad
You just hate to see it. You hate to see it, Garrett.
I love that I made the smartest decision in some of my football watching ever and switched to Dunn's coverage instead of, if I didn't pronounce that right, I apologize, instead of Fox's coverage because I got tired of listening to Stu Holden. And them referring to Kristen Pulisic as just Captain America just made me laugh my ass off. But to anyone that's sad about last night, it's a failure of their own doing, and it's not like anything's going to change. We might toast about it more on the 4th of July. So either on that. But anyway, with Detroit City stuff, women rolled. We might do a little bit at the end to talk about it, but we have with Spence on because we have women's W League playoffs on Friday, semifinals, 2 semifinal matches with four teams in that. Winners play each other on Sunday, and in between that, Detroit City's men's match versus Rowdies. So that's what Adam's referring to as a busy week. We'll talk about some brief comments in there and to kind of get people ready for the main discussion on that with Sean Spence later on this week. But our opening topic tonight, July, while we enjoy it, while it's a holiday, yesterday was Canada's birthday, which, affects us in a way because Canada in some cases is right across the street in this case being a body of water, and also another wonderful thing, the start of NHL free agency and NBA free agency. We'll briefly talk about the Pistons later on, but to this one, the main talk about today is going to be about the Detroit Red Wings. We're in day 2 of free agency. The NHL draft was last weekend in the bubble sphere in Las Vegas. Fanatics unveiled their new uniforms. A lot of stuff going on in the hockey world. So, Adam, I'm going to kick it over to you. Why don't you just kind of fill in on what the Wings have done free agency so far, and then if you want to talk anything about, make note about what some draft picks or notable draft picks from this past weekend.
I mean, as far as draft goes, I mean, the Red Wings, if that's one thing that Yzerplan has done really well so far, it's the draft. I know that I know that as far as like the draft goes, what the Red Wings ended up doing. Hold on, let me bring it up here. I know there is some, because I want to make sure. I want to try to get the guy's name right.
Oh, I heard it. I was like, I'm not doing it. Nope. Nope. Nope.
Did you see the jersey that they already made for him?
I think so.
Like just how ridiculous it is as far as like it getting,
Oh,
with the lettering and everything on it.
oh dear God.
Um,
You might have to drop a screenshot on that when you post edit this, just so people can see that.
Michael Brandaseg Nygaard, right wing out of Norway. Mora Ik Hockey Alvenskan.
Sweden, right?
No,
Well, he's
actually,
Norwegian,
wait.
but playing in
He's
Sweden.
Norwegian, but yeah, yes, did come from played in the Swedish league. So yes, get some high praise. So it's not bad. Like I said, Yzerman has done a actually a phenomenal job, especially considering what I've always gone on about as far as drafting with Ken Holland. Really, the last decade, aside from a few outliers there, like a Dylan Larkin, and a couple of other pieces in there as well that they've done as far as, or Ken Holland did as far as getting some workable pieces in here. And as far as Larkin goes, the team captain and kind of the centerpiece for any success the Red Wings have had, any limited success the Red Wings have had over the course of the past few seasons. I'm not going to get too much into the draft right now, just because I think there's too many pressing issues. And I'm not really prepared to talk about the draft right now, just because of everything that's been happening with free agency, or anything or all the stuff that hasn't been happening with free agency with the Red Wings. Obviously, the biggest domino to fall with the Red Wings was re-signing Patrick Kane, 1-year deal, which was probably the biggest shock as far as anything else goes with Patrick Kane, considering and not only that, it seemed like the deal with Patrick Kane, it was going to be something that was going to be stretched out a little bit longer. I didn't think that there was zero chance for him to return. I thought the Red Wings, I thought it was, like a 50-50 shot with Patrick Kane to return. I thought he was going to test out free agency. I thought he was going to see what type of offers he was going to get. If he was going to be able to get that multi-year deal that he was supposedly seeking, and he was going to weigh his options, and he was going to, go from there. If he came back to Detroit, it was going to be for, I thought, at least 2 years. But lo and behold, Sunday night, right after we left that Detroit City women's match, Garrett, it dropped. Patrick Kane, 1-year deal, $4 million, can earn up to 6.5 with incentives. And what's really remarkable about this is that, yes, it's a 1-year deal. Everything that we heard heading into free agency with Kane was that he wanted possibly an upwards of 3 years. But no, he got $4 million on a 1-year deal. And what's amazing is that $2.5 million, that's all bonuses. And I think that's the max that you can offer out in bonuses in the NHL that could end up being deferred. So what happens is, if the Red Wings can't cover that $2.5 million in bonuses this season under the cap, then what happens is the team doesn't get penalized for that necessarily. It gets moved to the off season, which is incredible when you think about it. So the Red Wings have to pay $4 million for Patrick Kane this season. Could be a little bit more towards the cap, but it really doesn't matter, because if they don't have the money to pay for that, then, like I said, it gets bumped to the offseason.
Right.
So it was huge to get him back into the fold, especially considering what happened on Monday. We saw the biggest money exchange when it came to free agents in the NHL on day one of free agency that the NHL has ever seen. It was incredible. The cap goes up, and I think they doled out over $1 billion in money on day one, which was insane.
Yeah.
It was absolutely insane. I don't know, Garrett, if you could find it right now, but um,
Notable ones off the top of my head: Brandon Montour getting 50 mil for 7 years in Seattle. Maybe somewhat off on that. Steven Stamkos, who we were lined up with, getting 8 mil for 4 years. 8 mil a year for 4 years at Nashville. Who then also picked up Jonathan Marchessault, which I actually think getting Marchessault may be a better piece of business for Nashville than getting Stamkos at this point. There were some other big ones. The Panthers getting Sam Reinhart 8 years. Getting him at the 11th hour before he was able to test the free agency water. That's a good fair amount of everything on there. I know I'm forgetting some outside of it, but I know David Perron went to Ottawa. I didn't see how much money he got in that deal. But yeah, I think it's just one of those things where I see all this money and I see that we did make moves, but I feel like the moves that we have made weren't too ridiculously monetary spent, like compared to like last year and maybe even a year before that.
No, Yzerman was being, I hate to use the term frugal because
Yeah.
it sounds very pejorative.
When you
But
trading Jake Wallman just before the draft to clear cap also too, that could be a connection to that word too.
I don't know. I don't know what Yzerman was really expecting. I don't know if he anticipated the change of the just how much money was being thrown around yesterday when it came to free agency, because according to Cap Friendly, $1.2 billion was spent on day one of NHL free agency, that is an insane number for the National Hockey League, considering when you look at the big four, the NHL is in fourth place when it comes to what type of contracts they issue out to their players. I know a lot of people were disappointed, and I hear you. I for one am not really disappointed at all. What I saw happen day one is Yzerman being responsible for the money that he has in hand right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and I also think Yzerman learned something too. After what happened over the course of the past couple of seasons. And I'm talking about the contracts that he issued out to a Cop or JT Compher or Justin Holl. Not good contracts. And, when you go and you look at it in hindsight, and a lot of the time, I mean, even that Justin Holl contract, when you looked at it when he first issued it out to him and Holl signed it, it wasn't, I mean, there are a lot of people asking questions then. I do have questions myself though, because, well, first, I think that they made some good moves. I think Cam Talbot is a good move. Getting a goaltender in here, he's going to help you bridge to Sebastian Cossa, who is going to be the next goaltender here. He is going to be the next starting goaltender. So I'm okay with that.
Also, Jack Campbell on a two-way deal.
Jack Campbell on a two-way deal. He's going to be backing up Cossa probably in Grand Rapids this year. Obviously, the big question as far as the goaltenders go is what do you do with Ville Husso and Alex Lyon?
James Reimer went to Buffalo, so we can.
James Reimer went to Buffalo today, so
our plate.
Yep. So he's out of the picture. Thank God.
Mm-hmm.
What you try to do is you try to do everything you can to rid yourself of Ville Husso. That's what you try to do. You try to get that $5.5 million for next season off the books.
Yep.
I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. They may have to eat some money in that, especially considering Husso has done nothing but prove he can't stay healthy for the entire season. So I don't know what they're going to be doing from there.
Yeah.
I know Yzerman really doesn't want to carry 3 goaltenders going in the next season. So we'll have to see what happens with that.
In your opinion, I'll ask you this. Husso's probably, in my mind, the one you'd want to get rid of the most. But if you can't get rid of Husso and you have an opportunity to dump Lyon, would you do it?
I mean,
that way you don't have all 3 of them. You have to be. I'm thinking about having 2 hitters in the sense of like what Vegas has done with that, what Boston.
because in a way that's why you got Jack Campbell in here too.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to get rid of Lyon, but if the right deal comes around, obviously you take it.
Because Lyon's even the older goalie here too. Lyon's got 3 years on Husso, which is still the wild thing. Lyon's 32, Husso's 29.
Yes. The important thing, I know people are losing their minds in some sense about goaltending, but you really can't. You can't go and you can't sign a goaltender to a long-term deal because you do have Kosa coming up through the ranks. And that's something that you want to just bring in a guy to keep the seat warm, and that's it. If they went out and they signed some goaltender to a 4-year deal, worth $3 or $4 million per, then that's where we have a problem. They got Cam Talbot, 2-year deal, I think what, 2.5, 2 to 2.5.
The fact that you're getting, and I know people might ask about age stuff at 36, but you're getting a goalie. Here's my thought on it. I've seen Cam Talbot's been in the league for a long time, and as we've become young teenagers, young adults into our current adult lives, Cam Talbot's also played in the NHL with us. To be having maybe his best consistent run of form in the NHL these last 5 seasons, GAA under, not just under 3, isn't it been almost 2.6 and better each of the last 5 years with the Wild, with the Kings, goal to save percentage over like 9.1s and the low 9s. So you're getting somebody who isn't like, going to be the flashy type thing, but you're getting somebody I think you can rely on, provided that, we shore up the defense, which I'm not going to lie, I think we're steps in the right direction. I know I have not seen, did the Jake Wallman trade in your mind, what in the last couple of years, what move outgoing has we done that's angered a fan base to me as much as what people were venting about with Jake Wallman in your mind?
Other than that deal?
Yeah, other than that deal. Rana,
what was that?
when we let Rana go or Mantha, but even then, I think we were all saying that was the right move to make at the time.
Yeah, I think Verana. I mean, are we just sticking with the Red Wings?
Yeah,
or can we go?
We're going Red Wings here, just because we can go down a Pistons wormhole, and it's too early for that.
Yeah. No, because I think the writing was on the wall with Verana. I think he needed to change his scenery, and obviously how things transpired with him in St. Louis.
Yeah.
It's something that had to be done, and then the same thing with Mantha too. I think Mantha wore out his welcome here, and we kind of saw we kind of see he really didn't do anything in Washington, and now he had to sign a 1-year deal with Calgary for $3.5 million, while Kane signed a 1-year deal with Detroit for $4 million. So it just goes to show how crazy things were with free agency this year.
Yeah.
You have a guy like Kane who was amazing this past season, signed for just $500,000 more over Anthony Mantha. But as far as, I don't know, trades for the Red Wings that are regrettable,
or people were
that people were pissed about. Oh, that's a good question.
I feel like I've seen this much outrage over somebody being traded in the Wings line in a long time.
I think it was more so that I think when it came to Jake Wallman, I think it was production based on what he was actually making.
Mm-hmm.
Because his contract was very, very workable. It wasn't a burden at all. And then, you had guys on the roster like Sherratt and Justin Hull and Petrie,
Yep.
and Mata, who are all still here.
Yep.
And you're sitting here thinking, okay, Jake Wallman was one of the bright spots on defense. Obviously, nothing's happening to Sider and Edvinson. And then you go ahead and you get rid of the guy that was again that one bright spot for you this past year, and in a year where defense was quite the struggle for them.
Someone
So yeah,
that's
I get it.
I'm a healthy scratch though near the end of the season. I don't think people are taking that also into account in their rage. Like,
No, no, they're not, and I think it was the fact that they also gave up a second round pick with it too.
yeah,
Um,
like they couldn't
so
get rid of him. They had to incentivize the deal.
yeah, and when you look at something like that, you have to think to yourself, Jesus Christ, like if that's what they have to do to get rid of Wallman, who they probably shouldn't have gotten rid of to begin with,
Right.
what is it going to take for a team to take Justin Hole off your hands?
Mm.
Um, so again, I I'll say this, and I'll say this for free agency in general with the Red Wings. If we were a a few weeks out from the start of the regular season,
Yep.
or we're in the middle of training camp, and this is the roster that we have going into it with, then yeah, I'm going to be a little upset about how things transpired. But we're day 2 of free agency in the NHL.
We are
Um,
3 months away till the start of the regular season, October 10th, Friday night at LCA. Schedule was announced. Full official schedule, complete schedule was announced today. The home opener was announced yesterday.
I mean, am I glad that Steve Yzerman didn't go out and deal out all this crazy money that the rest of the NHL, for the most part, did?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I didn't want to see Yzerman do is offer some long-term deal that we're going to be regretting here pretty soon. Namely because we have some guys coming up. And this is the thing, this is my biggest question is where does Kane fit into all of this? Because Yzerman had to say something to Kane to convince Kane to come back on a
Mm-hmm.
one-year deal for the money that he did. What was the selling point for Kane to come back? Because you know what I was fully prepared to do, Garrett? And I don't and this may sound crazy. Um, if
I
they
thought,
were
I
going
thought
to
he was coming back. To be honest with you,
what was it?
I didn't think he
What
was
was
going to.
it?
I think.
I like I said, like I said at the top. I thought it was going to I thought it was a 50-50 chance that he could leave, could return. Um, I would have been okay with them taking a little bit of a step back this year if it meant that some of the younger guys were going to get a chance to play.
Right.
Obviously, I think Edvinson's going to have a spot somewhere within the 3 defensive pairings. Um, and if it also meant like a guy like Nate Danielson was going to come up and have a spot on this team, a Carter Mazer was going to come up and have a spot on this team, and those are 2 guys that are going to be challenging for some spots here
Yeah.
come training camp and come preseason. Um, there are some arguments that Nate Danielson should have had a spot going into last season.
Right.
Um, so if you were to tell me that they're going to take a step back this year, um, just to give those guys their shot, then I would have been okay with that. I would have
Because I
been
also,
okay with it.
yeah,
Go
because I
ahead.
also think taking a step back this year doesn't mean that you don't make the playoffs. Because I look at the Atlantic in itself, which I think it's impressive enough when you look at a division that whether it's the Atlantic or whatever they called our division in the 2021 shortened pandemic year, that our division has had the Stanley Cup winner or the Stanley Cup runner-up the last 6 seasons,
Mhm.
including the Panthers winning it last Monday in Game 7, not going into the record books of blowing a 3-game lead to what was a Ken Holland GM side. Ha, you're gone. Sorry, that old, I can't forgive them for the last anything after 20 leading up to 2016 and afterwards. But point being, a step backward doesn't mean we don't make the playoffs, because I think you're going to see in this Atlantic division when you're looking, there's questions that being asked. Linus Ullmark gets dealt to Ottawa. So Boston doesn't have the 1-2 goalie head. Buffalo's
Which
trying to do things out and on the moves there. Tampa Bay. Jake Gensel's a good move that I wasn't expecting Gensel to go to Tampa, but all right. But then they get Gergensons on a 3-year. It looks like Cam Atkinson on a 1-year. So what are they going to be? They lose Anthony DeClaire to the Islanders, Matt Dumba to the Stars, Cole Koepke to the Bruins, Philippe Myers to the Maple Leafs, Alex Barrett to the Canadiens. So they've lost some people. The Leafs are Tyler Bertuzzi to the Blackhawks, TJ Brody to the Blackhawks. They resigned Max Brody, Joel Edmondson to the Kings, Ilya Lyubushkin to the Stars. They bring in Chris Tanev, Oliver Ekman-Larsson. They're just going to be trying things out, and they're probably going to. And I think they are really wanting to get Mitch Marner out of there. Mitch Marner actually, if I'm not mistaken, did the Marner deal to Utah get completed yet or no?
I thought it did.
Okay, yeah.
I thought he was. I could have sworn he. Oh wait, maybe it's not done yet. I thought it was done.
I remember being pissed that he was going. That it was the Utah. But at the same time, I also know that is a huge demand. Oh, it seems like Maple Leaf GM Brad Trevlin was not going to address the situation currently on Marner, but it'll be interesting. But no, my point on that being long-winded, and even Ottawa brings in David Perron. They bring in a lot of people in here, Gaudette, Hudson, Ruse, Grieger. But they've also appeared that Matthew Joseph is going to be being traded to St. Louis, which means I love somebody, I forget who posted on Twitter, says David Perron comes into Ottawa, and it means he's like, okay, this guy's got to get the hope him and whoever he cross-checked in the face last year make amends, make a nice dinner in Ottawa somewhere before the start of the season. But this is still a chance for us to get into the division and maybe get in a wild card playoff spot, because I think Florida's still going to be strong. Florida's keeping a lot of that unit that won the cup last year. Carolina looks like they got beat up a little bit. Teravainen to the Blackhawks, Brady Skate to Nashville, Nasson to the Devils, Brent Pesce to the Devils. They lose Gensel. Shane Gostisbehere, they did pick up from us in free agency on a 3-year deal for Gostisbehere. Which
taking a pay cut too. So Gostisbehere just seemed like a guy that want to go play for a team that could win the Stanley Cup. So which I get.
Well, and I remember I thought we were taking a risk picking him up last year. I thought he was had a resurgence year.
I thought he was going to get more on the market too. I didn't think he was going to sign for that.
So while we lose Gostisbehere, we did address that hole that was now created and picking up Eric Gustafsson from the New York Rangers, a 2-year deal. I kind of like this deal. I'm intrigued to see where they put him in the pairings.
It's not a bad deal. He's not gonna provide the offensive production that Gostisbehere did, but again, it's a very serviceable deal for Detroit.
2 years, $2 million.
And it's like I said, it's Yzerman, sticking with Yzerman's terms, which is going to make people rip their hair out in some sense, and that's fine. Like I said, when it comes to the Red Wings, if this is the team that's being rolled out, towards the end of the summer as we start approaching, training camp and the regular season, then I get it. Yeah, I'm not going to be happy with it either. But we're day 2 of free agency. I'm not going to lose my mind, because it certainly seems Like Yzerman has things set up right now to make some sort of deal when it, via trade. What was it? The Alex DeBrincat trade didn't happen until July 10th, I believe,
Let me look.
when it did happen. Um,
Didn't happen right away on the first. I know that.
no, it definitely did not. Um, I think I was on the phone with you when the trade finally did happen.
July.
Um, July 9th. Okay. So, I mean, there's still so much time left in free agency. And this, in the NHL offseason as well. Like I said, one thing that I didn't want Eisman to do is to go out and offer up a bad contract, one that we're going to regret,
Yeah.
uh, you know, sooner rather than later. Um, and just be just completely irresponsible with the money too. So I know it's not my money that they're spending, but again, NHL is a salary cap. I mean, this isn't baseball. We're not dealing with Chris Illich in the sense that you know he's not doing anything when it comes to getting free agents into the Tigers, which I know is a completely different topic. But I just can't be upset and overreact after day two of NHL free agency. So especially given the money that's been thrown around too. So I can't do it. Cannot do it.
There's potential rumored move potentially coming in is maybe being able to land Jacob Trouba in a trade from the Rangers. Um, if that's actually going to be something here, I'm curious to see the pieces that get moved, all in that deal. I know, I think,
Word is on that when it's cooled. Um, I think he submitted a a 15 team list of we submitted his list of teams he would go to, teams he wouldn't go to.
right,
I know he's from Detroit or he's from, the area. I
Russia.
believe his wife is too. One of the hangups right now with him and the Rangers and what the Rangers want to do, because I know the Rangers want to trade him, is I believe his wife is going through a residency right now,
Yep.
um, in New York with her career. So he understandably doesn't want to do anything that is going to cause his family some issue. So I
Yep.
get it. Definitely
This
get it.
isn't a new thing. We've seen Trouba visibly break down, if I recall, in a press conference, just talking about how important it was to see his wife succeed in her practice. So this is
Yeah,
complete.
and I applaud that. I
Yeah.
definitely applaud that. Good for him. Good for him, and I hope things are able to work out for him. I mean, I hope he comes to Detroit, and from a selfish standpoint with that. But I definitely get it if he doesn't want to move and shit like that. So yeah. But
So
the
I
other
think
one too was go ahead.
I was what you were going to say. Sorry.
I was going to say the other rumor going around is Aaron Ekblad. Um,
That would
that's
be
a
big.
rumor I've been hearing being thrown around too. Is Detroit going after Aaron Ekblad from the Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers?
Former number one draft pick.
Former number one draft pick, guy that could certainly use. So we'll have to see what happens with that.
Aaron Ekblad, a Windsor Nate, born and raised in Windsor, so he'll know he'll know the area, he'll know the experiences stuff on there. Still 28, blows my mind that he's still that. You know, players that you talk about that have played for so long, you're like, wow, he's old because he's been going essentially all the time. But played 51 games this past year. I know he was dealing with an injury bug. Played 24 in the playoffs, got 6 points, 16 minutes. So somebody that is, I think that would be a good move too. I would definitely be down with that blood. I'd be curious to see if that's where they move a Lion or a Huso. I think when I'm looking at some of the moves the Panthers, I think are making on that end. I think about the Rangers because I think what was it? Shesterkin was talking about wanting 13 mil or something like that. So Rangers want to make a maybe make a goalie change for the sake of their checkbook. Well, there's going to be some interesting things in there. Real quick, highlighting the schedule that came out. October 10th, Friday, October 10th, the season starts for the Red Wings, home to the Pittsburgh Penguins at LCA. 2 home games. So you have October 10th and October 12th versus the Predators. New Year's Eve hosting the Penguins. Obviously, the Stadium Series in Columbus against the Jackets. Anything in particular really stick out to you, or do you just want to kind of see where we're looking at squad-wise leading up to October 10th?
No, I want to. Obviously, we're gonna have to revisit this here. We're gonna have to keep an eye on it, revisit it, and kind of see where we're at, because I think what we're going to be seeing here in the next couple of weeks is some trades happen.
Right.
I think that's what we're being set up for right now, is some moves to be made. And something I want to keep an eye on too is what they're going to do with some of these potentially open offensive positions that they have.
Yep.
And how that's going to transpire, if they're going to, look within, to a guy like Carter Mazer or Nate Danielson, or if they're going to go out and try to get somebody. But yeah, we're just going to have to revisit this as things kind of continue to work their way forward, especially the goaltending situation. What are they going to do with that?
Yeah.
Who's going to be on their way out? Are they going to be able to, get rid of any current defensive contracts that they have on the books, whether that's Justin Holl or Petrie or Sherratt. So again, it's just something that we have to keep an eye on.
Christian Fischer was the first RFA wrapped up yesterday. 3 remaining. Joe Veleno, and obviously the 2 biggest pieces that you need to wrap up, Moritz Seider, Lucas Raymond. If you were to take a guess when to expect Seider and Raymond, when do you think that would be? And 2, what are you thinking we might do with Veleno?
Well, right now, I don't think there's anything they can do with Veleno. I think that he
offer sheet.
I mean, I almost
makes an offer sheet.
Yeah. The biggest questions with Seider and Raymond too is are either one of them going to get a bridge deal? If you ask me right now, and I think I've mentioned this before, I mean, I could see a deal happening, relatively soon with them, but I think the bigger question is with either one of those 2 bigger name RFAs is who gets the bridge deal, and who does Yzerman prefer to give that bridge deal to? If you ask me, maybe if you ask Yzerman, you probably prefer to give that bridge deal to Seider, because Seider probably has Seider is probably going to be the one, and I don't like saying this because I don't mean to, mitigate anything that the guy has done or anything that he is going to do, but he probably isn't going to be as big of a producer as Lucas Raymond is.
Right.
And if you give Seider that bridge deal, Seider isn't going to be costing you as much later on down the road.
Right.
If you give Raymond a bridge deal, I think Raymond has more potential to go off, in which case he's going to end up costing you more. So, my opinion, my outlook on it, I'd have no idea what Yzerman's thinking, is you give Seider the bridge deal and you get Lucas Raymond wrapped up to a long-term deal in the here and now. So I can see it both happening. I could see them both, getting those deals here within the next couple of weeks. Bigger question is who gets the bridge deal? Do both of them get a bridge deal? Did none of them get a bridge deal? Maybe that's another reason why Yzerman was more gun shy to, dish out all this money, is because he's thinking about what what he's going to have to spend with Sider and Raymond.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, that's it.
So I think that'll probably be the next big piece. I think seeing what the future is going to be involving those two, I think is going to be massive, because I think I wasn't expecting that much of a rapid turnaround in year 3 from Lucas Raymond, and especially him putting, like, I think I've said this on cast before, I've said this in conversations, both in serious and in jest. Lucas Raymond literally put the team on his back that final month or two, and was maybe the one consistent piece on a team that was anything but consistent ever since they put priority waste management on the front of their uniforms. Because you had Dylan Larkin injury, you had Kane started dealing with some stuff. You weren't sure, you had a tired Lion in goal, but Raymond was somebody that was trying his damnedest to keep this team in the playoff race. And that third period, the home finale of this regular season, is something we can hang our heads on and remember for that. So I think the fact that he's already getting all the Nikita Kucherov comparisons right now, it's a lot of pressure for somebody that young, but I feel like he likes that pressure at the same thing too. So I'm very curious to see what Steve's plan for both of these are, and what may come up in the dealing on that. So we'll keep people in the loop. Like I said, it's early days in this stuff. People think that free agency stuff's going to get wrapped up within the first 3 or 4 days. It's the NHL. Anything's possible. Real quick, and then we can shift to a brief thought on the Pistons. Some rumblings I was hearing that the NHL were thinking about talking about cutting down some of the preseason games, going to 84 reg season. NHL's done that before. I think the last time they did that was the 93-94 season, maybe, I think was the last time they did something like that. I don't know about how you feel, but I'm a fan of that move. I'd feel like there's too many preseason games, especially when you look at all the players that play preseason that don't wind up playing on this main team come the start of the regular season.
I'm always wary about adding games, meaningful games,
Right.
just because of the wear and tear on players.
Yeah.
Again, hockey's a brutal sport. I question it. I was never in favor of the NFL going, adding more games, eliminating preseason games. I was always in favor of limiting preseason games and keeping the schedule where it was, but I know the NFL would never do something like that because of money.
And they're going to add an 18th game probably within the next couple of years.
They're going to add an 18th. They're probably going to add 2 bye weeks into that too. I don't know. Like I said, I'm never really in favor of adding more meaningful games to schedules.
Yeah.
Just because of the toll it takes on players. That's it.
So we'll keep people in the loop. I would say expect some mulleting over Hockeytown. Shorts when some big, more prominent news comes out. We know something should probably be popping up, whatever it is. What Steve's I know they'll keep us on edge. Can't believe hockey season's gonna come here quicker than we know it. One last question to get your thoughts on it as a neutral. The Panthers Oilers Stanley Cup going 7. Oilers coming back from 3-0. Panthers winning the cup. The Connor McDavid playoff series, the playoff run that he had as a single performance. Do you think this is for the league itself, when we talk about it, and you've said it, I think, earlier tonight, how it's kind of the youngest sibling, if that makes sense, of the youngest sibling syndrome when you look at the big 4 sports in this country. Do you feel like that this is probably the best maybe the NHL has momentum going into ahead of an upcoming season?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, as much as the NHL, I mean, as much as I love hockey, it'll never touch, um, it'll never touch baseball. It'll never touch basketball,
Right.
and it sure as hell will never touch football.
Right.
Um, and the reason for that is just because of the makeup of the game itself. It's a cold weather game. You need
Mm.
specific conditions for it. It's expensive too. Not everybody
Yep.
can play it. Um, it helps though. It helps to garner more interest for the game, especially going up against the NBA Finals too. NHL produced a much better finals than the NBA did this past season.
Yep.
Um, and that's big for the NHL, especially considering where the NHL was not long ago. I mean, the
Yep.
NHL was in some serious trouble not long ago,
Yep.
and not to say things are perfect with them right now, but I mean, is the NHL in is in a place right now that you know they that they don't have to worry about as much? No, I mean they managed to get Phoenix out of Phoenix and into a market that seems like they're welcomed and the city wants them.
Yep.
Um, the only thing that I would want to see out of the NHL right now is to help strengthen the game a little bit more in Canada. And that seems weird to say. I know the game's already popular in Canada. Um, I'd love to see. I don't want to say more money out of Canada. I just want to see more.
Footprint.
I want to see a bigger footprint. There you go. I want to see a bigger footprint in Canada.
Yep.
Um, Look, I loved seeing Ken Holland lose.
Only
Lose.
reason why I would.
Um,
Only reason why I wasn't willing to root for Edmonton. That's how.
yeah,
That's how
I
much I'm a sicko I am when it comes to this shit.
yeah, me too. And any Red Wing fan out there is going to be cheering against Edmonton because they don't want to see Ken Holland win a Stanley Cup. Um,
All the respect in the world to Connor McDavid. Not saying
you know
nothing
what?
against.
Yeah, but I mean, would have been good for a Canadian team to finally win it again. Yeah, probably. But yeah, the sicko in me did not want to see Ken Holland win a Stanley Cup. Um, so yeah, I think it was definitely good for the NHL. It was definitely good that Edmonton was able to come back from being down 3 games to none.
Yeah.
Um, I think the NHL is in a decent place right now. You just want to see things get better within the Canadian market too, because right now one of the other teams is probably having the most trouble. Unfortunately, is probably Winnipeg.
Right.
That's the other team that has some big question marks surrounding them right now, and I'm
Specifically,
not saying they're not going.
yeah, specifically for people wondering, Winnipeg season ticket holders have dwindled. I think they're averaging 9,500 or so season ticket holders. It is in the middle, so there's a couple things going on for Winnipeg. You have unforgiving weather conditions bordering Minnesota, a place that's not really desirable for players to play. It's been often describably talking about, and a place that,
Smallest arena in the league
yep,
now that Phoenix is out of Phoenix.
and you're somewhere that's in between, and it's a place in Canada where you have the Canucks, Oilers, and Flames to the west of you, and to the east of you, you got the Leafs, you got the Habs, and you have the Senators, and even Ottawa has often. I think there's sort of discussions of how serious are the Sens right now in their stuff lately, because obviously Toronto's gonna be good. They're talking about, they've always, I feel like, when are we going to hear the talk of a second Toronto area team? You know how I feel. I want a team back in Quebec City. They built a new arena. They left for Denver because of the 90s. To give a rundown, the Canadian dollar was brutal in the 90s. It's not doing great right now compared to the USD. In the 90s, revenue for Canadian teams was in Canadian, but salaries were paid in American. So That's why you lose Edmonton to Arizona. That's why you lose Quebec to Denver for the Avs, and you almost lost Edmonton. Am I forgetting any others of those Canadian teams then? But
no.
No. So I think I agree with you in the footprint on there. I agree that it's wild the fact that this sport, in the country where that sport was produced, in the country where people learn how to be on ice skates as soon as they can, in cases as much as they learn to drink water and walk even, hasn't had a Stanley Cup winner since the Montreal Canadiens in 1993. It's not just, so I think that is interesting on there. 2 round the league final thoughts: Fanatics unis and Kings and Ducks. What do you think of those new unis?
Love the Ducks. Yeah, it would have been cool for them to go back to the old colors, but I'm cool with what they have now. Really, really like them. I thought that was a huge, huge upgrade from what they already had. Kings look good as well. I like some of the subtleness that they had, or some of the subtle nods to the past they did with it, with the 1960s crown. And the Fanatics jersey in general, I think they look pretty good. Not bad. Definitely better than what they rolled out with Major League Baseball. Yeah, I think I like both of them. They look good.
I asked Michael Bryant, his Detroit City defender, who's from Orange County. He's a Ducks fan. I know he was a fan of them. I think he may be seeing purple eggplant and jade as maybe alternates. I like the Canes design. It's fresh. It's clean. Give me a purple and gold alternate, or white with purple and gold alternate, and we're really, really golden on that. And yeah, I'm curious. I like that Fanatics. Fanatics seems to really be trying to take this serious. They're not. They're sticking to tradition, remaining in the in the Quebec thing for making authentics. How the rest of it's going to go, we'll see. But they know that they have to get their reputation in a better direction. So we'll see how that goes. We'll transition to the Pistons. We don't really have too much because we're going to be doing a special Pistons episode with our buddy Matt, Yowdy's brother, to talk on all things Pistons. 2 things we'll highlight. I want to highlight in particular: Cade Cunningham getting a max deal. Actually 3 things. Cade Cunningham getting a max deal. JB Bickerstaff apparently to be the assistant Pistons head coach. And Tobias Harris returning to Detroit with his 2-year deal yesterday. So, how are you thinking on those?
Tobias Harris, I get it. I'm not upset about it. Was it 2 years? You said 2 years, 52 million.
Something 2 year.
Yeah. I mean, offering a little bit more depth in that power forward position, it's fine. No issues with it whatsoever. I know I heard a lot of people saying, "Oh, why are you bringing this guy back? You already had him before. You had him in his prime." It's just
People have already heard my opinion on that trade, bringing Blake Griffin in, and how I think it is as bad, if not worse, than the AI for Chauncey deal. Well, we've already.
The thing is, though, is that Pistons in this market, you're going to have trouble getting players to come here.
Yep. Especially
you're going to have an even tougher time.
2 years.
Yeah, you're going to have an even tougher time after the season they just had. So I don't know what people were expecting Langdon to do as far as bringing guys in here. You bring in Tobias Harris, 2-year deal, $52 million, very, very manageable. It's fine.
Not a lot of money in NBA talk.
No, not a lot of money in NBA talk at all. JB Bickerstaff, I thought he hit a home run with that one. Bickerstaff is probably the guy that I wanted more so than anybody else, based off what he was able to do with some of the young guys in Cleveland. Improved Cleveland, I believe, just about every step of the way. In the year that he didn't improve them, they ended up winning a playoff series. I believe for the first time in the non-LeBron era for the Cavaliers since like 1993 or something like that.
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. So he was hired. So Bickerstaff had played the last 11 in Cleveland, goes 5-6, 22-50 in the not as full year in the 2020-21 season. 44-38 in 21-22. They missed the playoffs, but they did make it to the Final Four for the play-ins. 22-23 season, they won 51 games, finished second in the Central, lost in the first round. They won their first round series against the Magic. They went 48-34 this year. While they went down in the regular season, they won their playoffs series against the Magic in 7. They lost to the Knicks, which, isn't a bad loss because the Knicks were playing really good ball on there. So actually, no, they didn't lose to the Knicks. They lost to the Celtics. It was the Pacers that beat the Knicks. But yeah, no, I mean, Cleveland did win in one of those games. Their only series win was in game win in that series was in Boston. So
yeah,
I think it's a good move. I felt the same way when we hired Dwayne Casey. I'm not gonna lie, all those years ago, but I'm really feeling I also know this is a brand new front office in Trayon Langdon. He's really wanting to make his imprint. I think that's like I said, JB, he sees something in JB Bickerstaff. I think it's like how much of his foot of an influence is Langdon going to give JB Bickerstaff in shaping the rest of this team out in his image. And my point on the Tobias Harris deal, yeah, and I get the idea, $2 million, 52 years, 2 years, 52 million is a lot. Tobias Harris is 31, and to give you a rundown of just how I think I referred to it in our circles, is NBA money's like Monopoly money. Paul George is 3 years older, for example, than Tobias Harris. Someone who's had dealing with injuries over almost this last decade. Didn't he break his leg 10 years ago this summer or something like that? Paul George is Adam. See if you can bring up that deal that Paul George got with Tobias Harris's old team. 3 years older, and he got a deal that was for 4 years and what was it, 212 mil or something like that. Point being is this isn't. While I can understand it looking like a big deal, it's not a huge deal in the sense of the market. To give you a rundown for Cade Cunningham's max deal, Cade Cunningham got, I think it was 5-year, 224. I think was his max. 5-year, 226 was max rookie deal. And Cade Cunningham is somebody that is still 22 years old. Someone with still a lot of young upside and all that. So that is the. Did you find that Paul George deal?
I'm looking for it right now. It's not popping up.
I think I might have found it. Yeah, 212 mil. I mean, 4-year max. 4-year max, 212.
Yeah.
Which now that blows my mind. But 70, we're not in the Philadelphia market, not going to focus so much on the 76ers. But I was talking with a coworker about the Pistons today. If you get to 30 wins if you move up from 14 to like double your win total, maybe you get to something in the 30s, that's a good start right now. We should not be in a playoff in one of the automatic 6 playoff or the last week yet. I don't think we're there yet. Should be at least a couple of years away, but we should be seeing a team that is much more competitive this year, and hopefully that they can build up a more well-balanced full squad so that when we have second unit comes in, we're not getting our heads kicked in every single fucking night. So
no. Yeah, and the thing with Bickerstaff too is you are bringing in a guy, and I hear what you're saying about Dwayne Casey. One of the biggest differences though, when it comes to Casey and Bickerstaff, Casey was coming on a a big run with the Toronto Raptors when he was brought
Right.
in here.
Coach of the year, even.
Bickerstaff was tasked with building back the Cavaliers, building up the Cavaliers,
Taking over for Beeline.
taking over for Beeline. And that's what he's going to have to do here, too. He's got to build up what is a huge pile of fucking rubble here in Detroit with the Pistons.
Yeah.
You have pieces, though. There are some building blocks here for him to work with. And that's the thing, too. I'm hearing all this stuff about the Pistons. We'll talk with Matt about this a little bit more next week.
Yeah.
I don't think the situation is as bad as in Detroit as people want to make it out to be. Like I said, there's pieces in here. And now Cade Cunningham and Bickerstaff are attached at the hip when it comes to the years they have to work this out with. Both have 5-year deals now. You've got to get something done within those 5 years, which can definitely happen. And I think Langdon has made some decent moves so far. And kudos, like I said, to Tom Gores for letting him do that, not sticking him with some of the old regime's moves. Langdon came in here, he's making the team his own, and we're gonna go from there. We're gonna see how that works out. Could Langdon fall flat on his face? Absolutely. Can this be another failed regime that we've seen so many times before with the Pistons? Yeah, it definitely could be, but we're not going to know unless we actually move forward with it. So I like what he did with Ron Holland too, drafting Ron Holland, 5th overall pick this past year.
Not even Holland, not even talking with Detroit at all before the draft or working out with them. It's just doing some insight from what he did in the G League and making a pick on it.
Yeah, and I've heard people say that if the Holland thing works out, then you could have a Kawhi Leonard type of player on your hand here, which is great. If it doesn't, then it doesn't.
And you got also Thompson too, who you hopefully can. I don't want to compare him to Tayshaun Prince, but I see a lot in his defensive realms that there's a chance, like how defensive players are, I feel like, undervalued in today's NBA just because of how open and 3-point and win-point.
And the big thing is too, like I said, you have a coach that has a pedigree of getting the most out of his young players, which you need right now with a very, very young team. You also brought in a shooting magician when it comes to Fred Vincent and helping, get the most out of these guys in an area too that's just been, a black hole for this team, a team that couldn't shoot from the perimeter. You're bringing in a guy, like I said, in Fred Vincent, that is going to hopefully remedy that moving forward in the next season. So, again, it's not as bad as people want to make it out to be with the Pistons.
No.
I think that they made the right moves so far this offseason.
Yeah.
And again, but it's also one of those things too. There's nowhere else to go but up. So
agreed. And I think also too, people don't realize is we experienced the absolute rock bottom last season.
Yeah.
So now we're building out of that, hopefully, and getting better. Switching quick, I don't really have anything too much on the Lions, so we'll pause on them, keep on seeing fun stuff, seeing some more cool like publicity stuff. The Detroit Tigers, I'm going to be honest with you, I think Adam and I briefly talked about it beforehand. Don't really have any. The last couple of games I've kind of lost. I won't say I've lost interest, but I'm not really in the mood after. It's too early, I feel like, to talk about the whole stuff, the news going on with like Craig Monroe, and I know Craig Monroe's legal attorneys put out a statement today. But I'm not gonna lie, waking up to that news on Saturday of what was alleged, with and you combine that with how this team is playing, I've not watched the last couple of games. Not had the heart, not had the interest, and that's kind of like how I feel on it.
It's disappointing, especially I mean, well, the Craig Monroe stuff is just it's horrifying. The allegations are horrifying. Obviously, we need to learn more about that.
Yeah.
Police in Florida right now have opened up a criminal investigation into it.
Other
I
names
saw,
involved too, yeah, and it's just
yeah, I saw something that I know his lawyer released something today saying that they're confident or something like that. That when Craig is gonna have his name cleared, who knows? But just horrifying allegations. Also, I think Tony Paul released something today too. The Detroit News. One of the big questions asked is why hasn't Bally or the Tigers fired Craig Monroe? And the simple answer to that was that they don't have to. I think they said he's freelanced right now, so he's paid game, per game that he announces.
whereas
So
Ian Petrie are hired by the club.
yeah, so like right now, he's not getting paid at all, and they don't have to schedule him for any more games. So, um, I thought that the statement that they put out was kind of weird. Um, Not in the sense that they said that they weren't going to have any comment on it, but that any questions that you have will have to be directed towards uh or to Craig Monroe, which I thought was an odd statement, I thought. But
Yeah, and
yeah, it's
this is coming from us in Detroit, being in, I don't want to say insiders, but really in the know of Detroit City stuff, and see what we thought some interesting, approaches to see a statement like that while not knowing any of it at the time of what's going on, and now finding out what's alleged to be at hand is
well, I've had to write statements too for the Northern Guard supporters in the past. I've had my hand in some good statements. I've had my hand in some bad statements. So
yeah,
I thought that was a bad statement that they put out
yeah.
regarding it. Uh, but again, I mean, as far as the Tigers in general go, I mean, I've like I said it before. I don't think Chris Ilitch takes this thing seriously. I don't think he's interested in owning a baseball team that is successful on the field. I think he's only interested in making money. I think he's only worried about his bottom line. Um,
But you're going to lose your bottom line. And then the message that will say this is as people who are inuit enough that also cover this for fun. If you care about the money, if you think about for so much bottom line, but you don't put in to make the thing that people come to see for better, your bottom line is going to fucking suffer even more
oh
so.
yeah, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So I mean, again, baseball. There's no salary cap in baseball. You're in a top 15 market. Why
Mm-hmm.
aren't you fucking spending money? Why aren't
Right.
you going out and offering big time contracts, considering what is already off the books? Um, I don't put a lot of blame on Scott Harris for any of this, just because I
Nope.
think this is coming straight from the top. I think
Right.
this is coming straight from the top. I think Chris Ilitch just doesn't want to spend money. Um, and that sucks. It sucks considering what we have with this team, what we have with this pitching staff, what we have in a guy in Tariq Skubal who could very well win the AL Cy Young Award this
Yep.
year. Arguably the best pitcher in baseball right now, and you are doing nothing with it. Should they trade him? Absolutely not. I don't want
Nope.
to see the Tigers trade him.
Yep.
But are they going to probably trade Jack Flaherty? Yeah, probably.
Yep.
Probably. There's no reason to keep a guy like Jack Flaherty right now. Team's
Nope.
not going anywhere this season. They have a good manager too, in AJ Hinch. But they have nothing, nothing to complement these guys with. They have
Nope.
no pieces whatsoever outside of these guys. And
Yep.
that's what and it seems like ownership doesn't want to do anything to bring in guys. And that's the most frustrating thing above anything else.
So Tigers 15 and a half games out of the race for the Central. I mean,
It's over. It's
yeah.
over.
So
There's no indication this team is going to be doing anything to rectify that, to make a turnaround or anything like that. So
and
they're
games back,
tied. What? Yeah.
8 back of the wild card. And last thing I'll note, frustrating the fact that the Kansas City Royals, for example, won 56 games last year. They're already 9 wins away from matching their win total of last year.
Mm-hmm.
in the last wild card spot. So, yeah, frustrating things. We're gonna then we'll brief finally last part Detroit City stuff. Like I said, we're gonna really dive into it. Well, we're gonna dive into it for the Centrics with Tunnel Talk. That's going on tomorrow night. We're doing Tunnel Talk and not a throw-in, right?
I believe so, yeah. But they still won't give me. They still won't say a time for tomorrow.
Yeah,
I asked the time. I asked the time in our WhatsApp chat.
I almost hit reply. I almost hit reply all at a time, but then Dan was like, "Yo, what have we done with the kits?" Which I'm glad he asked that because that's my bread and butter. I'm not going to talk about the men's game last Wednesday. Adam asked me not to. It's actually probably good because that was the most livid. I hit old supporter mindum at the end of how we coughed away that game last Wednesday, but. Good things. The women, as you might have heard our multiple coverage, the women clinched the Great Lakes Division on Thursday in USLW League play with their first ever win at and the first ever double of Midwest United. Beautiful. The men followed that up with 6 changes at Eastern Conference bottom feeders. The Miami FC struggled a little bit early on, but Ben Morris to Reese Williams starting a game off for the second time in a row. Michael Bryant, after being left out of the squad completely on Wednesday, gets in, headed goal from Ryan Williams. Maybe up there with one of the Ryan Williams and Bryant, some of the highest rated players on ThoughtMob for that day. Michael Bryant makes the USL's Team of the Week. Well done to our buddy on that. Hell of a response to that situation.
Do you think it was that? You think it was he had a little bit of a fire lit under him by
I don't
blame.
you know what? I think this is the opportunity. While it may be a pain in the ass and it stings for the situation, I think it was an opportunity for a quick reset and a quick refresh. And so the women then ended their regular season the next day with a 3-0 win at Holloway Field at Ann Arbor Pioneer High School at Ann Arbor, which you might have saw we were on site for. Photos, crowns, all the whole 9 yards. Great interview we had with Coach Dave Dwight. That is out on the major TVs.
Very vintage vibe too, with that game.
So, because to make as if we haven't done, there's not a whole lot going on with Detroit City lately. Thanks to our successes in W League, and apparently, even if we weren't going to be as full as winning the Great Lakes Division, Detroit City is going to be hosting the Central Conference playoffs for the W League, which is 4 teams: Detroit City, Minnesota Aurora, Indy 11, and River Light FC. 2 semifinal games are at Keyworth Friday, July 5th. Minnesota Aurora versus Indy 11 at 4. Detroit City taking on River Light at 7. The 2 winners face each other in the final Sunday, July 7th at 1 p.m. In between those, Detroit City's men take on the Tampa Bay Rowdies in a huge Eastern Conference showdown, implications on the line. City's 2 points behind the Rowdies with 2 games in hand. 7 p.m. Eastern. The season debut of the Black Kits officially confirmed. I'm glad because I was worried they were going to lead me on with this information and then throw a U-turn. Hold on, Club. Thanks for on there. Warrior Black folks. Popped on RBLR Rowdies to give a city opinion earlier this evening. That episode should be dropping on Thursday. Look for social links on that. Real quick, I know we're doing 451 tomorrow night. I know we're gathering with Spence on the 4th of July via chat on 4th of July for City Make Spence. Your quick thoughts, women, men.
Congratulations to the women.
Yep.
It's a hell of a regular season. I do have a little bit of concern with the women's side.
Some good teams are put to be playing.
We're about to play some good teams here. Their ability to score. I know they put up 3 on Ann Arbor. It should have been more.
Right.
I'm a little worried about that.
Counterpoint. Best defense out of all those 4.
For Ann Arbor?
No, all of the 4 teams in the Central Conference out of that are in that playoff, we have the best defensive record.
Oh, yes. So
which may help us.
Yeah, that worries me a little bit. I'm assuming we're gonna have Avery Peters too, which helps in that defensive aspect more.
Yep.
Um, I'm hoping that we have Louis Jekyll as well on Friday and for the weekend.
Yep.
Who knows? I guess that's something we'll have to ask Spence more about on Thursday. Um, so yeah, as far as the men's side goes, good rebound game against Miami.
Mhm.
The whole team looked good. Yeah, after they looked a little sluggish to start, I'm assuming it's probably hot and muggy and everything like that down there too.
16
But again,
from the game on Wednesday. I know there was some illness going on in the club on Wednesday as well. So
yes, yeah. So yeah, good bounce back game for them. Feeling confident too going into the weekend, especially the way the Rowdies looked too against Loudon
yep.
the other night, losing 2-0 to Loudon United.
And not only
Um,
being 2-0, but being very shaky in transition defense, and Loudon looking every bit like the deserved winners on that. Which,
the Rowdies haven't looked like the Rowdies this season. Um,
question that was asked, and shout out to Carlos and all the team that I was on with earlier tonight. What Rowdy side's going to show up? Because we've seen different Rowdy sides this year. We've seen,
we've beaten the Rowdies. We've beaten the Rowdies too at Keyworth before.
yeah, and then
So,
the Rowdies have also like
trounced us in
even
Florida.
1-0, 2 1-0 trouncings, and 1 5-1 ass beating.
Yeah.
But yeah, what is it going to be? The Rowdy side that beat Louisville that's going to show up, or a team that lost the weekend before beating Louisville to an Oakland Roots team that's now third in the Western Conference out of nowhere,
Yeah.
or the team that got flat out embarrassed to an extent in Leesburg, Virginia, this past Saturday against Loudoun. I think that there's ever a time to play Rowdies, it's with us. It's now. I think they asked the question that my answer was who's going to set the tone first, and who's going to cause the other team to make the mental lapse.
It's fair.
I think that's going to be I think that those are some of the things to look for on there. Rowdies have some talent, but you know what? We got some talent though this year now too. 7 p.m. Saturday for that. It's a busy city weekend, folks. A holiday weekend and a busy city weekend. Two things that it's like the old days all over again. Get your ticket if you want. Go check out any of the women's playoffs. Tickets are on sale. That's DETCITYFC.com. Go to ticket shops. I think they're like 10. Is it $10 for that gets you both games, or is it just gives you Friday? What's the sitch on the playoff?
I'm not sure. I don't buy tickets.
Neither do I.
I get it. I get in free for making videos of Garrett.
Y'all want to get into quarter shit? Do all that stuff, folks. It's
one quick thing. Did you see that one? It's that obscure USL account on Twitter
there's
about. Well, it's the one that says that Phoenix Rising may be interested in Danny Dicchio.
I thought
Did
they
you
were
see that?
also interested in Trevor James too, and I was like, oh wait, you were the one telling me that.
I was joking about that, though. I was joking about that.
Uh,
Which it could be. I don't know if they're actually interested in Trevor James or not. But this account did mention Danny Dicchio, though.
our colleague, our fellow USL club correspondent, Owain Evans, that we met when Rising came into town in May, has been kind of keeping people in the loop. So Phoenix Rising parted ways with their head coach after a 5-1 loss to Memphis 901. A move that, is it safe to say, was
Very unpopular.
yep. And now even apparently to the point that there's rumblings where players have been apparently scolded by club management about leaking it does not seem like a fun time to be in the land of the rising sun. Not that's Japan. Land of the desert. Where the rising play. There we go. I'm in holiday mode, folks. Yeah, so I think that's everything for there. I'm really curious to see how this women's team go. The women's games go. I think it's going to be a fun test. I got to decide what if I'm showing, because my boss asked me, she's like, "Are you staying for both games on Friday?" I'm like, "Fuck." I do want to see Aurora versus Indy. I just don't know if I'm going to show up at half or not, just because manage minutes, bros.
I'm I'm a little shocked that we're hosting. Honestly, a little shocked considering Aurora had a chance. I don't know if they had a chance to host. I
Yeah,
don't know why my Siri's going off, but I thought that maybe they would have hosted, considering the turnout they get too.
yeah.
For their women's matches.
That to give you a brief rundown on what Detroit City's opponents that they're going to be having in this. So there's 2 teams for Heartland because River Light was the best second place team in the Central Conference. Minnesota Aurora, like Detroit City, went 10 wins and 2 draws for 32 points. However, unlike Detroit City, who scored 24 goals and allowed only 5 in 12 games played, Minnesota Aurora allowed 6 goals and scored 61, including beating their RKC Third Coast 14-0 in their last game. You want a shock to that? Go watch our part 2 of our post-match recap with Alan and I on the 451 Detroit YouTube on Saturday. Because, yeah, that was some wild-ass stuff. River Light, 8 wins, 3 losses, and a tie in that Heartland division, 25 points, 49 goals scored, 11 allowed. So the Heartland division seems to be one for goals. Indy 11, who seems to be the one that wins W League playoffs in both of these years, they have not as many teams in the Valley division. There's only 5 teams. They won 7. They lost their final game of the year. So they went 7 wins, 2 draws, 1 loss, 38 goals scored, 13 allowed. So I don't think Indy's getting to the final, Adam. I think it's going to be Aurora. I think an Aurora team's playing like that.
Indy 11 just lost their coach too, I believe.
Oh, man. Indy 11 also getting ready because Indy 11 is one of the debut Super League teams, right? So fun time. There's a lot of fun landscapes going on in the world of lower league and soon to be top flight women's American soccer. Much more fun and exciting international team. We've already talked about that. We'll continue to talk about that because, yeah, I'll give a comment about last night. I thought we were going to get pumped by Uruguay and Bielsa ball. The fact that we only lost 1-0 kind of surprised me. The fact that it was after Greg Berhalter apparently pointed out that Panama-Bolivia was 1-1 and Uruguay scored, 30 seconds later? Hilarious. So that's what you get for that type of mentality, folks. You have any thoughts you want to add on that?
Fuck the U.S. team. I'm glad they lost. Fuck them.
Yeah. I mean,
people say not my president, not my team. Not my team. Fuck the U.S. national team.
Adam Salty, as Mexico didn't also make it out of Copa America. Congratulations!
Hey, we had a better record than the U.S. team did. So,
congratulations to my buddy Ray Riccozzi and his stepmother's Ecuadorian national team. I have their away kit from this year. He brought it back from Ecuador after Christmas. So yeah. Also, I also feel for our hermano from Channel 451, Jaime, and his Peruvian national team for finishing bottom in their group. Canada's the one team out of the Americas out of the North America, essentially in their Northern Land, to make it into the Copa America knockout round. So, all right, I think that's about it. My phone is telling me that I should probably get ready to die on there. Adam, ways they can find out any of the content on the shows and where they can find you.
Find us on our website, Detroit.themajorsports.com. You find us on YouTube at youtube.com/themajorsTV. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at TMS Next Detroit. You could find me on Twitter as well at TMS Next Adam.
Find me. So any of the molding content videos were on the Majors Detroit or on 451's YouTube. 451 to 451DET or 451DET@gmail.com if you want to reach out. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button on any content being done And you can find me Twitter, Instagram, Discord at GM Comat. So a bit quiet and stuff on the Twitter these stuff of days, but I know there's been some been popping on some other things. So RBLR Rowdy's guesting that should drop on Thursday. We're recording City Make Spence that should be dropping either Thursday night or early Friday. Tunnel Talk we're doing Wednesday tomorrow night once these guys get back to us with times. There's a whole lot going on. It's a holiday weekend. Be safe with fireworks, people. Don't be fucking idiots. And there's going to be plenty of fireworks in the Detroit sports world. So be ready. Just be mindful. We'll keep people in the loop. Adam over there, Garrett over here. Have a good night. Happy 4th, everybody. And yeah, see ya.
See ya.